Howdy, Internet. How's it going? Okay, so we're here because Neil from Stepwise is at it again. He's got another theory, I guess more refinement on the same theory, talking about the sequencing of when you should internally rotate getting into your center position in order to fight elbow dip. So, vast majority of the credit on this to him because he's the one who's done the research and came up with that idea. I've been basing a lot of my recent coaching off of that because it just seems like the most effective way to fight elbow dip. So I've adopted that theory because it seems to play out every time it's applied so far. So I watched 2 minutes of Neil's new video and then paused it because I was like, okay, Neil, get out of my head. Because I'm thinking along the same lines that he is. And my suspicion is that we're thinking the same things. We're thinking and working very much in parallel without really talking about it. Again, I am basing my understanding on his previous work. So thank you, Neil, for sharing that. But I was hoping that if our theories do align, that this being an independent vote rather than just signal boosting his stuff after I've seen it would give more weight to the idea and make more people give it a serious look. So, I'm just going to go over my theory and then I'll make another video signal boosting his stuff after I've seen it if I agree with it, which I'm sure I will. So, level up shoulder anatomy is step one. Okay, so first question in my research was what are the primary internal rotators of the shoulder? So, internal rotation is this, rotating the humerus this way. External rotation is rotating the humerus the other way. So primary internal rotators, subscapularis, commonly called subscap, because it attaches to the subscap, the under part of your scapula, which is on your backside. This is the most powerful internal rotator. And one muscle of the rotator cuff, which is the most confusing part of human anatomy that I've been exposed to. I'm told hands and necks are worse, but I don't really care about those for disc golf. So your subscap attaches here to the big ball on the outside of your shoulder. And it also attaches under your scapula. So it does this. It makes this humerus bone rotate inwards. Boom. Another relevant one is your pec major, which is primarily your push-up muscle. I know this is relevant to the throw because when I don't play for a couple weeks, and then I go play a long course, my pec muscle gets sore. So the strength of that is contributing to your backhand because I basically don't throw forehands. Another one, this is one that I had backwards. This is why I encourage you to do your own research. Look up these four muscles. Latissimus dorsi, your lats, which is your muscle responsible for your ability to do this if you have it, pull-ups. It's back here. It's big. Inserts on the front of the humerus. And it is a powerful internal rotator and adductor. This is adduction. I believe you're adding your elbows together. Abduction is taking them away. Another one is teres major, which attaches in a very similar spot to the subscap. And it goes, I think it goes under your pec and is a strong internal rotator and adductor. So, similar to subscap, but it attaches on the other side, on the anterior side versus the posterior side. So those are the four big ones. Subscap is the biggest one that we care about. And I was backwards about your lat, which is relevant. Okay, so next research question, what muscles externally rotate the shoulders? Primary external rotators are infraspinatus and teres minor. The two big ones that internally rotate attach here and here, right? And the two big ones that externally rotate, I believe, attach here and here, and they pull that way. Secondary external rotator is the posterior deltoid. Your deltoid is your shoulder cap. It's divided into a front one, a middle one, and a back one. The back one does some of this. So if this muscle is going to help drive your arm forward and externally rotate a little bit. Not super important for our purposes here. So my next research question is between the internal rotation muscles and the exterior rotation muscles, which tend to be stronger? I thought mistakenly that your lat was an external rotator and your lat was the biggest muscle involved, and that would just take over, which is why most people do this because their lat's overactive. That's what I thought. Apparently, that is completely backwards because your lat is an internal rotator. And humans are better at internal rotation than they are at external rotation. This makes a lot of sense. We evolved to throw things this way so that we can have food and fight each other because we're silly. We did not evolve to throw frisbees and backhands. We did evolve to throw forward. So my theory got turned on its head. This is not a question of strength, which means this is a question of motor program. Your motor program to throw a frisbee does not make sense if you dip your elbow because that's taking you out of a structure that's useful. So, enter therapy bands. So, anything that stretches, even just a towel or a t-shirt could work for this. I'm just going to hold my left hand up like a post. My right hand is going to be here so that my elbow is at a reasonable center position. And my forearm is at a 45-degree angle. If I activate my subscap, I go into internal rotation and add tension to the band. If I relax everything, my hand pops back up. So just do that. Feel that muscle activate. Find a reasonable amount of tension where you're darn sure that muscle's on, but you're not working so hard that you're really going to strain anything. So that's your center position, power pocket, if you will. When I go to reach back, I'm going to let my arm relax so my elbow can go this way because we don't really care where our arm is in the reach back. What we do care about is that it goes into internal rotation. So I'm thinking about pushing my hand down as I get to my center position. So I'm set up here, elbow towards the camera, hand higher than elbow, forearm on a 45-degree angle. I'm going to go to my reach back position, let my elbow move. Boom. Come back to my center position, drive internal rotation where I'm stretching the band, and then as I come through I'm going to go back to external rotation, pull them up, and I can let the band go because I don't need tension up there. So I'm set up, boom, boom, boom. What this is doing is it's making sure that you are driving into active internal rotation from here to here. So you can't just start in internal rotation and stay in internal rotation because most of us tend to come out of it. I can do that. That's how I learned how to throw on a decent plane, is I just said, okay, keep your elbow up and actually keep your elbow up and then let it dip down as you get to your hit point. That worked for me. Over a year or more of coaching that, it did not work very well for my clients. Enter kneel, drive into internal rotation. So this is just a way to check that you are actually activating that internal rotation from reach back to center position, and then you can let it go. So that's my theory. It doesn't seem like a lot, but I think going through that drill and feeling that activation and understanding that you want to be here and what muscles you're activating to do that, I think that'll help people learn. And this is an exaggeration of a shadow swing of how you want the motion to go to fight turning into briefcase too early, or which allows you to turn to anti-briefcase. I see that a lot in clients. They reach back here, start to drive forward, and as the disc comes forward or slightly before the disc comes forward, the inside edge of the disc rises up, and then they pull forward, and as they pull forward, because the elbow has dropped and the inside edge of the disc has gone too high, in order for the disc to align with their elbow hinge again, the disc has to flare down, which makes it bobble, which makes it wobble. We don't want bobble or wobble. So that's my test. I'm gonna go watch Neil's video now and see if he's on about the same thing, because I think he is. Put a link to his video down below. All right, internet, if you are still here, you are one of us. We didn't get too nerdy, so you might not be a nerd, but you probably are. So if any of this makes sense to you, please go check out the Patreon. We are, at least where I am, going into the fall winter put up a net in the garage season, so now's an excellent time to work on your form. If you're at all interested, go check out the Patreon. All right, see you later.